Welcome to Big Iron with Max Prasac. I've always been intrigued with harnessing power, just being able to tame something that is seemingly untamable. For me, the essence of handgun hunting is getting close, getting in that uncomfortable personal space. It's visceral and life-altering. Every breath and every move matters. An activity and lifestyle that is difficult to master, and while not for everyone, is rewarding for the individual willing to accept the challenge. Welcome to Big Iron. Hunting in the United States is seasonal. Everyone knows that. What do you do in the off-season? Shoot targets at the range? That's not good enough for me. While that's a necessary part of my life, I would rather actually go out and hunt live animals. And hogs are the answer. There's no season, there are no limits, there's an abundance of them, and it's something you can actually eat in the off-season as well. When I was an editor with Boar Hunter magazine, I was looking for an outfitter that was fairly close to my home in Virginia, where I could test guns and ammo for magazine articles. I made a call and we struck a deal, and from there out, I was coming here on a regular basis, testing and writing articles for that magazine. We've been working while we're here with one of the co-owners of Hog Heaven Outfitters, and that's Mitch Turnage. Mitchell grew up in this business. His dad's been running it for close to 20 years, I would say. Now he's running things really well. He's a great guide, and he tries to keep track of where they're going and where they're coming and trying to figure out where they are so we can get to them.
We were hunting Florida, Texas, Georgia, South Carolina, trying to kill hogs. And it got expensive, and we got on the phone and found a place 45 minutes down the road to hunt hogs. And this was a hunting club. There were all the deer hunters in it and duck hunters, whoever was hunting, they were killing hogs, and we still were not putting a dent in the population. So we started taking a few groups, and it just kind of exploded and turned into Hog Heaven Outfitters. Well, this property is 2,000 acres. It is combined of wetlands, hardwoods, agriculture fields, and the hogs, they completely overrun every bit of it. And in the summer months, they're in the swamp, staying cool. In the winter months, and even right now in the hot months, they're in the bean fields and just tearing it all to pieces. They breed like crazy, so there's no stopping the reproduction of the hogs. They're like mosquitoes.
For this hog slaying exercise, I brought 3 of my favorite BFRs to the party. First up is this .44 Magnum. I equipped it with a shorter barrel, and the reason being it was a nod towards packability. Even though I put an optic on it, not iron sights, I just can't use iron sights like I used to. My eyes are just not there anymore. So I equipped it with a reflexive red dot sight. They're pretty easy to pick up, but they don't take up a lot of space, so it's still packable. It also has the Bisley grip frame. For this particular revolver, I've chosen Buffalo Boar's 340 grain hard cast load. It's a plus P+, okay, so it's pretty high pressure. It's raucous, it kicks hard, but it's an absolute freight train. Granted, there's nothing out here that's going to need that kind of penetration. It's nice to have it on hand anyhow. Next up is this 460 Smith & Wesson Magnum custom BFR from the Precision Center. It's black nitrided. It has also the Bisley grip frame. I've equipped it with a scope. Because this thing has a flatter trajectory, it's better for, it can be used for longer shots. Not that we're going to get them here because the terrain's not going to dictate it probably, but it's nice to know you can reach out and touch something a little bit farther out. With this one, I'm using Buffalo Boar's 300 grain jacketed flat nose 460 load. It's very accurate out of this firearm, and I expect it to be devastating when and if we get a chance to use it. Next up is the 4570 BFR, also built on the long frame. And this is pretty much the revolver that started it off for BFR when they came about. They offered the 4570 first. I'm using one of Buffalo Boar's 405 grain Magnum 4570 loads. It's a rifle load, higher pressure than the standard 4570 of yore, but that BFR is tough and it can handle it. I've also equipped that with a red dot sight. Again, I don't expect shots to be, I don't think, farther than 100 yards here, and with the red dot, that's completely doable if you practice with it. So that's what I brought, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to press all of them into service over this weekend, but I'm going to try. When we return, we show you how we were greeted on arrival at Hog Heaven. We'll be right back. Big Iron is brought to you by Magnum Research, makers of the BFR, the biggest, finest revolver.
and buffalo bore ammunition. Strictly business.
When we pulled up onto the property and we're going through the gates, Mitch spotted some hogs in the field. And if you can see them from that distance where we were, they're pretty big. So we got a little excited. In street clothes, we hauled Bud over there and we, we put the stalk on.
We get out and we run through some CRP and can't find the big hogs in the binoculars, can't see them. We do see some 50, 60 pounders. So we take off across the field because it's not, their eyesight's not very good. We take off across the field and get down really in the swamp. It's dry right now. We've had some dry months. We get down in the swamp, get kind of close to them, and break out in the field, and they're gone.
We ran into a couple of groups of smaller hogs, and we decided, well, why not? Let's kick this thing off with even a smaller hog because they eat better anyhow.
So we all break down, get down, and begin crawling across the field to these hogs. And about that time, we see a group of bigger hogs. Those are coming right to us, look at them. We start crawling towards them, and they turn around and take off back in the woods. So we go back to the other group of hogs. And as we're doing that same group of bigger hogs, they come running right at us. So we get set up, Max gets ready to take the shot.
I got a shot on one, kind of a hasty shot, and I don't know what happened. I missed, somehow. That was the first encounter when we got here, and that was a pretty good sign. It was a good omen of things to come.
The stalk wasn't successful, but we had a great time, and we put a very good stalk on them. We just didn't close the deal, but that's okay. It was great. It was a good experience, and we got to see how we all work together, and hopefully it'll build up to a kill later this week.
After the break, we beat the sun and get started before the day. Stay with us.
The saying is that there are two types of places in the United States. There are places with hogs and there are places that will have hogs. This is a place that has hogs. We've come here to obviously hunt wild hogs. Whatever you plant, they'll pretty much eat, and that's the problem. They have no real predators aside from, the lunatics that want to go out into the field and shoot them. Basking in the aftermath of my miss the second we got here. We started the first day's hunt off in a stand. It's hot, it's humid, but we're happy. That netted nothing. This is not a fenced operation. Hogs can come and go as they please, and they do come and go as they please. It's hit or miss, that's why it's hunting. We decided to head back to the ranch, maybe get something to eat, and then go back out. And it was still relatively early and pretty cool outside, so there's a good chance that the hogs were still moving and not laying up because it was hot.
So I picked them up from the stand and took them back to the cabin just for a short break.
As we were stepping off of the vehicle and trying to get inside the lodge, Mitch turned around and noticed that there was a big group of hogs right by the rifle range.
I saw about 9 or 10 pigs coming towards the pass. We all got together, grabbed the pistol, grabbed the camera, shot down the road, got close to where they were coming and kind of lost them for a minute.
Big group of hogs just walked across here.
And then we heard them grunting down in a ditch. So we kind of creeped up close to them. We could see down in there pretty well, and there were, like I said, 9 or 10, and they were feeding down in the ditch.
So I got set up on the sticks, got the revolver ready, I had the hammer back, and we're just waiting for something to come up and clear. And one small pig came out, looked right at me, looked at all of us, turned around, walked back. He walked back, he wasn't spooked. And while everyone was concentrating on that, I caught some motion out of the corner of my eye, and I turned my head to the right, and there was a much larger pig that was standing on the road right there coming across, and he didn't see us either. So at that point, I let him eat 300 grains of jacketed flat nose bullet. That was all she wrote.
Oh boy. Good shot.
One 300 grain bullet, it clearly works. It's not a big animal, but this will be a great barbecue hog, as we call them. I'm happy. About 30 minutes after we shot that hog down by the range, we decided to get back on the 4x and drive the property. Since it's been so cool this morning, we figured the hogs are still moving. We took this road and we've been driving it for a while. We've come across a couple sets of hogs.
Right down. Yeah, get out, get ready. He's a good one too, I think.
We managed to get between the river and a couple of hogs that were on the side over here.
Range point me.
We kind of trapped them, so they came out.
He's down there. He went in here, but the river is right there. He's in here. And he was working back this way in the end. Okay, he's not far.
They ran across, and I hit one of them as it was running across the road here before I got into the brush. I think so. It wasn't happy. It squealed a little bit, but it's okay now.
When we return, Mitch leaves us in the dark. Stay with us. Big Iron is brought to you by Magnum Research, makers of the BFR, the biggest, finest revolver, and Buffalo Bore ammunition. Strictly business.
It was a little shocking to me to actually shoot two during the day, broad daylight. I think it was the first time since I've been coming here that I've shot anything during the day. I've hunted here dozens of times, and we've always hunted at night. No one wants to move around in this heat, and hogs need to cool down by, wallowing in mud and getting in water. Yeah, might want to move. Oh, look at all of them. Scatter, like deer.
Later that evening, I sent them back out to the same stand they went that morning with the light.
Most of my previous experience at Hog Heaven has been hunting at night with green lights. We mount a light to our firearm, and when the hogs come around, we pop the light on and let the lead fly. So this was a familiar place for me. The green light doesn't seem to spook them. While they do notice it, it doesn't typically cause them to scatter. It's pretty effective, and I've been quite successful in my nighttime hunting efforts. Of course, this requires the hogs to show up to the party, something completely out of our control.
Hope is when you hear something. Start the red dot, cock the revolver, get ready, pop the light, and shoot. That's the sequence of events, and hopefully connect. We sat for a few hours, and it was hot and humid and mosquito-ridden. You know, even though you shoot these things over bait oftentimes, nothing's a given here. It truly is a hunt. You don't have a pen here. You don't have fences that are keeping them in, so you can follow them around the property. They're here or they're not here. We survived the evening without seeing any hogs.
I don't know why. Too hot, not eating corn.
It's hit or miss. Like I said, it's a hunt here. It's not a gimme. It's not shooting fish in a barrel.
So I went and picked them up, and we called it a night.
We came up empty this evening, but there are never any guarantees. You just can't predict their movement. That said, Mitch isn't giving up just yet.
After a couple sits without any luck, I went and picked them up that night, and we went and looked for another option. I'd seen some hogs in another location earlier, so we baited that night, hoping that we maybe could kill the next morning. So the next morning, I put them in a new stand, hoping to find a little bit of better luck.
It's a really nice location. You have a lot of visibility from all sides, basically. Nothing's moved, but it's cool. I can't imagine something won't be coming around. It's tough going hunting hogs, well, the way I do it, because I tend to hunt fairly hard. And, you know, by day 2 or 3, you're pretty worn out. Lack of sleep, hunting late, getting up early, doing it again and again and again, repeat. But it's worth the effort. Just see what happens.
Frankly, I was a bit surprised we didn't receive any visitors. The cool air and bait should have brought at least a few hungry hogs around, but they were obviously eating somewhere else. Should being the operative term. But again, that's the nature of hunting, particularly when there are no fences containing the hog population. This is a purely free-ranging hunt. After we sat in the stand for a few hours, we started driving the property looking for stragglers. And at one point we came across a group of hogs that were in the woods to our left when we were driving down the river road over here. And we got off and put a stalk on them. Out east, sitting in a stand is the method of hunting typically when it comes to deer, comes to hogs. That's how we do it out here. It's because of the terrain. It has nothing to do with the Easterners are lazier than Westerners. Westerners have more ground to cover and different methods. But yeah, it's the way we do things here, and it's the accepted way we do things. And while I do it, it's not my preferred way of hunting. I prefer to spot and stalk. It's a lot more challenging. It's fun to try to play the wind and try to get as close and as quietly as possible to them. Their vision's not the best, so you can sometimes, if you're playing the wind right, you can get up pretty close to them without them catching on. But that's the way I like to do things. Spot and stalk is definitely my preferred way of hunting over sitting in a stand. However, it's nice to mix it up.
think they winded us and they got away. But it was, again, good to see some and engage them. For me, the stalk it's the most fun and most challenging way of hunting them. I mean, sitting in a stand is fun too, but well, it can be if you have good padding. Otherwise, won't go there. Anyhow, so it was nice again to see them and actually be able to put a stalk on them. We weren't successful, but that's okay. We were successful the day before.
Not often we see a handgun hunter. A lot of times guys are hunting with a rifle, which makes it a whole lot easier on my behalf when they're hunting with a rifle. So it was a little tougher, but it was a great experience. It was a great time, and it's really going to make the other situations a lot easier because I know how to handle having to get really close with this, especially with the spotting and stalking. We've had to work for it. We really have had to work for it this week. I hate it on my behalf, but it's been a great experience for the both of us, I believe, and it's been fun.
We ended this hunt on a positive note. I can't think of a better way to occupy the off-season. Hunting wild hogs provides you with the opportunity to test new firearms and loads and gives you the chance to hone your hunting skills and marksmanship. Lastly, and probably most importantly, it's a whole lot of fun and all the more challenging with a handgun. If you hadn't considered it before, consider it now. And remember, it's just like bow hunting, but louder.